Zoo Boys, Chapter 8, Part A, On the Ropes. Just before reaching the ropes course, John tapped Dave's shoulder, getting him to turn and look back. John silently pointed at an extra bulky growth on one of the thick vines hanging from a tree alongside the path. As soft as he could, John whispered, "I think it's a gecko." Dave hadn't noticed at first. Jeremy was further behind, Ron following him, and once again Quasi was even further back. Dave exclaimed what looked more like a wooden knot than just a leaf. He examined it. John and him were delighted to see the gecko's tongue come out and lick its eye. John confirmed quickly, "Yep, a gecko." Dave expressed his amazement, but kept his voice down. "Cool. Is that real? It looks so much like part of the vine." He called back to the other two boys. Guys, hurry up. You gotta see this." John assured Dave it's not going anywhere. His main defense is to just be still and blend in. See? His camo, his skin, is just like the branches, a tree knot, or a leaf. That's his that he's sitting on. This one has better camo than others I've seen in pictures. He's almost invisible. Amazing, huh? At that exact moment, the vine that the lizard was resting on suddenly turned and ate him. Dave instinctively grabbed John's shoulders, claiming, "The plants are alive!" John clarified, "All plants are alive. This'n's a camo snake." Startled, they both took off running. Jeremy wasn't sure why Dave and John bolted off, but he called back to Ron, "We better run too. They're leaving us." Ron put his hand on his pocket to hold Tina securely as he called back to Quasi, "Come on, gal. The race is on." Quasi looked up and then jumped into a full sprint. She whizzed past Ron. She even passed up Jeremy, who was already running at a pretty fast pace. Jeremy watched Quasi pass him. He skidded to a halt, stopped dead in his tracks when he saw the half-dog, half-Komodo dragon go into a headlong roll just a few feet ahead of him. Ronnie was catching up. He got there just in time to see Quasi get back up. Ron asked Jeremy, "What's wrong? We'll never catch them if we stop." Jeremy leaned back, holding his arm out in front of Ron. He spoke with fear as he pointed ahead. "Look." Quasi was standing in the middle of the path, facing the boys. Ron asked, "What is that? Is that a snake in his or her mouth?" Their pet stood proudly, showing the tail end of her catch. The snake, with its full belly, didn't struggle much as Quasi slurped her down for her snack. Jeremy snickered. "Ha, a snack snake, or a snake snack." With that being said, the race to the ropes course was back on. Ron jumped to it, pushing past Jeremy's arm. Once again, Quasi gladly took to the back of the line, especially now that she had a full belly. When all four boys reached the destination, they just stood at the base of the trees, gazing up at how high the cargo netting, tight ropes, and girder poles went. Ron was first to ask, "Shouldn't there be some type of harnesses and safety ropes that would make this more fun and may keep us from, I don't know, dying?" Jeremy agreed. "Yeah, there really should be." John tapped Jeremy's shoulder while pointing to an old sign that read, "Ropes Course, Safety Gear." The words were written on a big arrow-shaped sign pointing to a small storage hut. Dave suggested, "Well, come on. Let's see what we find." Ronnie called out, "Quasi, come on, girl. You guys should have seen her back there. She ran and attacked and devoured a big snake earlier. Maybe we should go in the shed, but let her go in the shed first." "Yeah," Jeremy agreed. "Yeah, if she's not too full." Dave said, "I'm hungry. We should have caught that snake and ate it." John joshed, "I'm sure glad the snake didn't eat us." Quasi came walking down the trail and nuzzled up against the pocket Ron kept Tina, the tiny baby tiger. Yes, Ron kept Tina, the tiny baby tiger, in, then rolled over on her back, encouraging Ron to let her feed the newborn. "Good girl," he said as he attached the child. This time it felt more normal. John announced, "Good idea. We should all eat. I got beef jerky." Ron replied, "Oh, that's nice," in reference to a story he enjoyed as a kid. "You know, guys, like the wide-mouthed frog. Ha ha, I got hot dogs and a can of beans." Ronnie then sadly added, "But I don't have a can opener." John was proud to say, "I brought a can opener." Ronnie never saw a can opener that didn't run on electricity. Dave said, "Y'all get some food ready while Jeremy and I go check out the storage shed." Jeremy said, "But Quasi and snakes." Dave pressured Jeremy. "What? You afraid?" Jeremy rose to the challenge. "Well, no. I mean, not really, but what if there's no gear in there, just like a den of snakes? I hate snakes." Dave provoked his friend. "Then we'll have beef jerky, old hot dogs, beans, and snakes to eat." Jeremy wasn't amused with Dave's hiss, so he didn't reply. He just obediently followed Dave toward the shed while John showed Ron how to open the can of beans with the handheld can opener. John ripped open the bag of beef jerky. John explained to Ron, "I'm glad you brought hot dogs, but you do know they aren't going to be any good, 'cause they haven't been refrigerated." Ron hung his head down. "Oh, yeah, I wasn't really sure. I don't really know, much about food and refrigerators and, kitchen stuff. My mom never lets me in the kitchen. One time, when she wasn't home, I tried to cook, and I burned a pan. So bad. It was just completely black. I took the pan and buried it in the woods because I didn't want to get in trouble." "It's okay, Ronnie. Here, have some beef jerky." Dave and Jeremy let out cries of rejoicing. Ron and John both raised up their heads, as did Quasi. Dave was just a little louder. "We got it, boys. Big dog's gonna climb." Jeremy came running back toward the other two. Ronnie asked, "Are you being chased?" He wanted to know in case he needed to run too. Jeremy didn't hear him. He was too busy being overexcited. His words were forcefully flowing out of his mouth. "We hit the jackpot. There's everything we need to climb. Oh man, we could climb like Mount Everest with this stuff in there. Come see. Oh, wait, is that beef jerky?" Ron and John got up. Ron shared the jerky as they both followed Jeremy back to the supply hut. Ron inquired, "No snakes or spiders or scorpions or big dung beetles or..." His list was steamrolled over with Jeremy's overwhelming zeal. He spoke around the beef jerky he shoved into his mouth hole. "We didn't see any, but supplies and more supplies. Yep. In good shape, too. You'll see. Good beef jerky, too. John was skeptical that any of them knew how to use any type of climbing resources. However, as they approached, they saw Dave coming out in full head-to-toe gear, proclaiming, "We gotta do this!" Jeremy tapped the helmet on Dave's head while shoving the half-empty bag of dried beef into the harness across Dave's chest. He gladly accepted the snack. Ronnie's excitement went from 0 to an immediate 10. He expressed, "That equipment looks better than what we use at Global Climb It." With admiration, John asked, "You guys been there? I've always wanted to go there. I mean, Global Climate is like known about all over the world. Like everybody knows it is the best place to learn to climb. And people come from like all over just to climb things they have in that building. Man, they have like that 100-foot rock wall," and Ronnie trampled over John's words. "Yeah, you know Global Climate? It's in the Guinness Book of World Records, right?" John corrected him. "Guinness Book of World." Ron just kept talking. "They not only have the highest rock wall, but they have..." Jeremy and Dave joined in with Ron's words as all three of them stated in unison, "Tightrope high." John was embarrassed that he didn't really know what they were specifically referring to. His face gave away his ignorance. Dave jumped in. "Johnny boy, you ain't never been? You don't even know how much fun it is. But, have no fear, my high school friend. We have had lessons at the Tightrope High School. Global Climate." Dave stopped speaking prematurely. All four of the boys heard a helicopter approaching. At least, they hoped it was just a helicopter, and not another flock of oversized, mutated, weirdoed birds or ants or something else unimaginable. They all ran into the hut. Quasi heard the approach too. She flipped over, laid flat on the ground, head up, and raised her belly just high enough so that tiny Tina, the baby tiger, could still nurse and not be smothered. The sound waves of the blades cut through the air. Great bursts of wind were forced downward, while the aircraft propelled close overhead. In the hut, Dave commented softly, as if the pilots could hear him. Guys, they're really flying low. I don't think they saw us, though. Shh." While the trees and loose pieces of nature were stirred up, the boys huddled in the little storage house. The chopper breezed over their heads, sweeping the forest like a fine-toothed comb. They heard broken limbs and even small pebbles hitting the outer walls. The aircraft was so low, the wooden walls of the little hut shook. Dave whispered again, "Man, yeah, they're really, really low." By now, they could barely hear Dave. Jeremy asked, "You think they'll land?" Dave responded, Shut up, stupid." Ronnie spoke up anyway. He was louder and more forceful. "Do you think they're gonna land here?" Dave shushed Ronnie too. John also spoke up, regardless of Dave insisting he be the only one who was allowed to speak. "They won't land here. They can't. But there's a helipad near the beach. They are low. They just might be landing." "And they can't hear us," They can't even hear each other without headphones. You know, the headphones, like with the mic that comes around in front of your mouths. Ronnie yelled, also relating, like the kind we use in gaming. Jeremy and John nodded. Dave didn't react. John continued, just sit tight, guys. I'll go check it out. Before any of them had time to react, John was out of the hut. Ronnie asked Dave, what's he doing? Jeremy joined in. He better not be seen. He's going to give us away. Do something, Dave. Dave proceeded. He held his hand out, palm down, as he said, just simmer down, boys. John's sneaky. He won't give us away. Shh, listen. John spoke with high hopes in his head. He didn't want his friends to get any more anxious than they already were. The loud blades were moving further away. Dave continued, okay. He knows where the landing pad is. He'll just see if it's landing and, oh, whatever. It's just okay now. Remain calm. It's time for us to just trust John a little. He's all right. It's okay. Now just shh. When not sure what to do or say, Dave always went to hushing his friends as a default response. Jeremy and Ronnie trusted Dave and felt that if Dave trusted John, they could too. Like a passing storm, the sound of the chopper continued to move further and further away. They found some comfort in that, but they knew it wasn't all over yet. Things were quiet again, and still again. Within less than a minute, that peace was shattered again as John busted back in the door with the latest news report. They all jumped as John broadcasted, "We're good, dogs. I spied through the trees. It didn't land, and no one was dropped off. We're all good." The other three began to dismiss the images that they were building in their own minds. They saw, with such clarity, military personnel or cops dressed in SWAT riot gear dropping with cords from a Black Hawk cop chopper, then storming into the domain of their small fortress/hut. John knew their minds would go there because his did too. To help them form the current reality, he added, you know, like with cords from the copter to the ground, there's nothing like that. They didn't drop or land. They're all good. We're all good. Dave recalled back to when they snuck into the Forever Happy amusement park. He had to ask John, did they drop anything? Anything. Like, not just people, but crates, boxes, supplies? John thought that was a strange question. Then he too remembered what they told him about the last time they had trespassed. He assured them, no, nothing like that. I didn't see anything drop. They must have just been flying low. No reason, probably just like practicing, or I don't know. But yeah, no, nothing like that. I'm telling you, we're good. Ronnie's soft voice quivered, as it often did when he was nervous. You think they're looking for us? He gulped. Jeremy offered some comfort without babying Ron or treating him like less of a man. Nah, we're good. Johnny looked with his own eyes. We good, bruh. Dave didn't coddle him either. He didn't even know how to coddle, but he did try to bring some reassurance to his younger friends, Look, guys, I trust John. If he says nothing and no one dropped, then nothing and no one dropped. John smiled. He felt just a little taller than normal just by getting that little boost from Dave, the leader of the pack. John realized his own reputation with them depended on this very moment. If he was wrong, they would blame him for getting caught. John spoke without first filtering any of the words he chattered. I mean, I didn't see anything, or I was just hidden by the trees and stuff. You know what I mean. And so, like, I could see them, but they couldn't see me, and nothing. I saw nothing drop. I saw the chopper and all, but I saw nothing else. Nothing dropping, and, like, so I mean, and stuff like that. Maybe they were like flying and stuff like that, flying low and stuff like that, because they got a report and stuff like that. Report they did it and that they did that and stuff like that. That is, they'll say and everything like that, that everything's cool and safe and stuff like that. He was still searching for more words, as if trying to give a speech in front of a large auditorium of people. That kind of public speaking may have been easier for John than just talking and trying to talk in front of his own peers right here, right now. Dave came to his rescue, putting John out of his misery. Yeah, they gotta fly over and just look a little so they can report back that no one's on the island. John thought, exactly. Perhaps I said too much, or I said it the wrong way. He wondered if he was supposed to use a few dirty cuss words when he was speaking, just to fit in. He thought, funny how those words make me more acceptable by my friends, but make me feel unacceptable or driven away from adults who don't accept talk like that. John was at the age where he felt parent pressure and peer pressure. He was grateful Dave was able to get the message across. Ronnie wasn't so sure. He began to stammer a little bit. But we are on the island and we ain't supposed to be. Jeremy contributed. But they don't know that. They didn't see any signs of us. As Jeremy's mouth finished speaking, his mind went to the rubber raft they left on the beach. He said nothing. He hoped it was buried by the sand. Dave changed the subject as he tugged on the climbing vest he proudly wore. Let's climb! That ends Chapter 8, Part A. On to Part B.